This is one of those stories that everybody knows. Someone with
I like
an
the
idea,
voice.
and the idea was a dream, and the dream finally came true. This is of my mother, and to someday envision her dream to have a nicer piano, a grand piano, of all things. She, of course, had dreams for me as well.
Lester. Okay.
But the piano being in our home, having a grand piano would be advantageous as far as practicing and being in the mood for bigger and better things, piano-wise. Those were things that
These
I
pictures are great.
was grateful for, to have such a fine piano at home to work with. My mother was, I'm sure she was playing and enjoying that new keyboard. It was the same as the keyboard we had in the old upright, but it just felt different to have this music coming from a grand piano.
Yeah, it makes
What
huge
we wanted
difference.
most for our children was that they'd become music lovers, not great musicians. We knew how much music could mean to them in their adult lives and with their own families. And we knew that any abilities that they developed, they could share with others, and they'd be useful to them later on.
The Lester piano was a part of my upbringing. I grew up in Texas, but my grandparents lived in Salt Lake, and that's where the piano was. Usually every year we would go up there and visit, and my grandparents would ask me to
Cute
play
little guy.
things. That was really my first introduction to playing this piano.
They are a musical family.
Our family took a car and a trailer up to Utah to pick up the piano and bring it back to Texas. We didn't have the means to rent a truck or anything fancy like that. So the family in the ward loaned us their car. It was an old 1960-something Buick and homemade trailer of sorts. We drove up there and loaded up the piano, really not knowing what we were doing. We used ropes and tarps to be able to cover it and tie it down. In fact, you can even see the rope marks on the side of the piano to this day. We did the best we could. We managed to be able to bring it back to Texas and set it up in our small living room there. And that's where I grew to love playing the piano. Of course, I had played the piano quite a bit before then, but there were some times around later adolescence when the piano became not just an instrument for purposes of competition, learning technique. It was more of a sounding board for my soul, you could say. And so for that reason especially, this piano became near and dear to me.
My first introduction to the Lester piano was actually visiting you in Texas for your missionary farewell. And I remember sitting next to you, hearing you play, and just hearing the warmth of the sound. That's one of my first impressions of the piano. And later on in our married lives, I think when I was in graduate school and you went to a friend's memorial service, you were able to fly home through Dallas with our oldest child, who was 18 months at the time, and load this piano into a moving truck and bring it back to Utah.
Back to Utah.
Had several homes before resting here, but all along the way, our kids, have, as they've grown up, have had access to it, and it's just been a really rewarding thing, even if it was 6:45 a.m. in the morning, practicing happening. What I remember too is thinking, I guess my initial thought is that I hope that Beethoven would get them all through their adolescence, but as it turns out, we ended up with some composers in our midst, and it's been just a real treat to hear each one of our children not only practice their assignments, but just really spend time here at the keyboard, experimenting, trying things out, making their own music.
Our oldest, Andrew, started on the piano and then branched out into music composition. There's a continuation of tradition that his grandfather, my father, began. Hannah has taken on the cello very seriously, but whenever she gets the chance, whenever she comes home, oftentimes she'll sit at the piano and play Beethoven. Christian has pursued that composition avenue as well. Frequently we'll hear him sit at the piano and figure out chords and melodies and record himself. And Sophia also, she's entered in competitions and written her own compositions. So there's this sort of multi-generational connection with the piano, not only in terms of playing and learning other composers' music, but also composing one's own music.
Okay, that was a really quite a charming video that they put together. I love that. I love that story. That's really the vision of the piano legacy project that we're doing. If you're not aware, that's why we're watching this video. Is we're giving away a restoration, and we've asked people to send in their family stories, their family history, pictures, photos, videos, interviews, all of those kinds of things. And this is exactly the kind of thing that we had envisioned. A lot of times when we restore piano, we'll hear stories and we'll hear about how it's the third or fourth or even occasionally fifth. I think we've even had one sixth generation piano. So actually seeing the specifics of what that actually means for a piano to be multi-generational like this is, like I said, very heartwarming. And I love what he said, that when he was younger and he was showing pictures of when he was like 15 years old, that the piano was kind of a sounding board for his soul. I definitely can relate to that for sure. I felt that way. In my high school, I grew up in Chicago. My high school, in the music department and the fourth floor of the music wing, there was just a narrow hallway that had nothing but pianos in it. It's very, very small rooms that were big enough only for a piano and a chair, and that was about it. They were just practice rooms. And so I I I didn't realize it at the time, but I've come to, I guess, realize and accept that I'm very much an introvert, and I wasn't really into the high school scene at in lunch, and so I would grab my brown bag and of lunch, and I would go up to that music hallway, that piano hallway, and just eat my lunch while I played the piano every day. And I did that for I think it was at least my junior year. It might have even been my senior year, and I found a lot of uh, satisfaction in that. I found that much more enjoyable than the craziness of the high school cafeteria, because the piano very much was, like he said, a sounding board for my soul. So I can relate to that. So and I love also that it's a multi-generational thing, that they've really taken the piano seriously, and that it seems to have launched passion for music and to get family togetherness, which is part of our mission as well, for well, several generations. So great video. Congratulations on a beautiful family. Thank you for entering the Piano Legacy Project, and we will be choosing the winner here within, what is it, within a month or so? I can't remember, but it's coming up shortly. Thanks for watching.